Negative thoughts in your mind that you aren't good enough, that you'll never be successful? If so, you're not alone. I've had those thoughts playing in my mind ever since I took the leap to become an entrepreneur. It's a dirty, dark secret that no one likes to talk about, as the glamorization of becoming an entrepreneur is shown in the media. I realized that in order to succeed, I needed help. We all do. So I decided to go all in on myself, spending thousands of hours in the trenches, reading, joining groups, listening to podcasts, hiring coaches to develop a bulletproof morning routine for success. Join me on my journey as together we build our morning fire to ignite our lives as entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Wickersham, and this is the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. Welcome to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. I am extremely excited to have Allan Langer on the show today. Allan is a best-selling author of The 7 Secrets to Selling More by Selling Less. He spent 26 years in sales, as well as he's been interviewed or invited to participate on over 75 podcasts, webinars, or online trainings. Allan, welcome to the show.
Jeff, love being here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's get into state real quick. So we're going to do 2 power breaths in, where we breathe in and we go all the way up to the ceiling with our arms. So let's go ahead, breathe in and out. Good. One more breath in and out. And I like to end it with a power boom. So I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. We're going to yell boom and hit our chest at the top of our lungs. 3, 2, 1, boom.
Boom. All right.
Allan, welcome to the show. So I eat, sleep, and breathe, morning habits, rituals, routines, all that good stuff. What is one thing you do when you wake up that's kind of set you down that path towards success?
Well, it changed a little with COVID because the kids were home. So it used to be get up and I would literally, like, I wrote my entire book in a coffee shop. So I would get up, I'd drive to the coffee shop, and I'd spend 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day writing my book. That was my morning routine. And that kind of really got my day going, because I always say, find your happy place, and writing is my happy place. So I always started my day in my happy place. So then COVID started. I had to create my entire office here. I never had a home office. So I would get up and get the kids started on school, get my coffee, and then sit down behind the computer. But where I really kind of saw some improvements is I really started my day with I call it client building. Okay. I get on LinkedIn and I contact potential clients and I start to have conversations. I don't start with, I got to get this done, or I got to call this customer. I start my day trying to build my client list, and I always find that's a positive thing to do.
Okay, awesome. So you're focused on relationship building and building that network immediately when you get up, rather than putting out fires or doing whatever else that might take your time and change your focus in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, that's never a negative thing to do is relationship building. You're always going to have a good conversation. I always try to send out 25 connection requests, and usually those turn into 1 or 2 conversations. And then that just kind of starts my day off on the right foot, because I know that those are all new connections that I didn't have yesterday. And so that's never a negative thing. And then I can get into my, what I have to do for that day's agenda.
Absolutely. I love it. And I love connecting and putting yourself out there, and so many people kind of hesitate. And I don't know if it's a confidence factor or if it's a factor that they just don't know how to do it. And are coming from the place of, and we'll get into this, right, related to sales. I think everybody hears sales and they kind of cringe a little bit. And in your book, I know you give it a unique term. What's the term you use in your book?
Well, I say everyone has this phobia. You're not born with it. It's inherited. It happens as you live. It's called rip-to-trust-phobia. It's the fear of meeting with a salesperson. Everybody has it. We all have it. It's that pang you get, that twinge when you walk into a store and someone says, "Hey, can I help you?" Without even thinking, without even knowing why you said it, you said, "No, I'm just looking." That's rip-to-trust-phobia speaking. You don't want to talk to the car salesman. You don't want to talk to the furniture salesman, because you don't want to be ripped off. You always have I call it a rip-to-trust phobic event.
Okay.
Sometime in your life, you got ripped off or something happened with a sales person or something from a economic standpoint where you lost money. That's when it started, and it stays with you your whole life. And usually it's compounded by more and more negative events.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think we all, I know personally, I cringe when somebody asks me, do I need help? Or
Mm-hmm.
one of the most painful things is going to the car dealership and shopping
Yep.
for a car. So how does that go into our psyche and play into our psyche if we're a business owner, if we're in sales, if we're an entrepreneur? That, listen, at the end of the day, we're selling ourselves to everyone around us each and every day. How does that really play in that phobia play into your makeup?
Well, it's an interesting phenomenon because on one hand, as the consumer, you have rip to trust phobia, so you don't want to meet with the salesperson. But as a business owner, as an entrepreneur or solopreneur, you now have to sell your product or your service, but you still have that in your brain. So you don't want to be the salesperson that the person is afraid to meet with. So you kind of shy away from it, and you're like, ugh, I don't want to feel like that salesperson. But then you actually don't really know how to sell. It's like you're trying not to be the salesperson. And the result of that is you're not selling much because you're really not knowing how to talk to the person in a selling situation. So it hurts people on both ends. I have found that a lot of salespeople contact me for help because they want to know how to sell properly and successfully, but not feel like the salesperson doing it. Because most corporate, if you're in a corporate situation, you go through the sales training. The sales training is always about, number one, making the sale. Obviously, they want you to make the sale, but it's never about rapport building. It's never about helping the customer. It's like, how do you handle the objections? How do you use this closing technique? How do you do this to the customer to make the sale? As opposed to, well, let's figure out what personality I have in front of me. Let's figure out what their problems are first. All of these things that help you become the anti-salesperson is not really trained in the corporate world.
Yeah, and I would say it's all about the close, right? And then it's like, hey, I closed this person. They're excited about it, rather than helping and solving the problems
Mm-hmm.
of their potential customer, right? And it's just that different mindset. And if you have that hesitation that you don't want to be seen as that salesperson, then you're going to struggle, right? In your sales and your sales in your business, whatever you might be selling related to that. So that's definitely important. So what are some tools, some strategies that people can use to get in a different mindset related to going out and pitching their products? And I'll tell you, I see it so much on Facebook and LinkedIn. Somebody sends you a connection request and it's immediately, here's what I can do for you.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the wrong way. Yeah,
There's no
totally.
relationship building whatsoever, where I have now go back to them and say, okay, here's what I have for you. Because if you're not going to spend at least, a little bit of time understanding where I'm coming from, there's no way you're going to get my business. So what are a couple of strategies people can use to kind of get in that different mindset?
So one of the things, there's quite a few of them, but something that you can literally use tomorrow, is two things I'll mention, is to change the mindset from selling to helping. The companies I train, I challenge them to change their vernacular, change their charts. Everything in the sales office that says closing percentage should be changed to helping percentage. Anytime someone makes a sale, instead of saying, calling your sales manager to say, hey, I just closed Mrs. Johnson today on a big deal. You say, hey, I just helped Mrs. Johnson with her solar panels or something like that. It just changes everything from the whole mindset of the company changes and the culture changes when you start doing that. The second thing is never lead with your product or service. Always lead with how you can solve their problem or the problem that you solve. So for example, when I used to give the live talks, and even when I do the virtual ones, although it's harder now, I would ask a question. I'd point to someone in the audience and I'd say, okay, what do you sell? And they would say, I sell roofs. I'm like, no, you don't. What do you sell? I sell kitchen knives. No, you don't. I a window salesman. I sell windows. No, I don't. I sell the solution to your drafty living room. I sell the solution to your high energy bills. I sell the solution to the water leaking in your living room, or the kitchen knife guy. I sell the the issue of can't cutting through your steak quick enough. Those are the problems that you're solving. If you just say, I sell kitchen knives, well, so does everybody else. You're not solving the problem. So if you lead with that, like, for example, when I sold windows in my Anderson days, I would never walk in the house and show the window until they were ready to know that the window was the solution to their drafty living room. Because once they know that that's what your solution is, your service or your product is the solution, then they're going to want to see it. If you just walk in and say, here's my window, well, I don't give a crap. You didn't talk about my living room's freezing. Is this going to solve it? What is this? Right. So lead with the problem that you solve and not your product or service.
And I love that first point you made, the language, and there's so much power in just changing one word, right?
Huge.
From close to help. I like to, obviously, morning habits, rituals, routines, mindset. When people say I have to do something, I say replace one word. Instead of have to, get to. And instead of being heavy, it's light. It's almost a privilege to do it. So I totally agree with the power of the power of language, how it is communicated, and how you can do that little switch of close to help. And then then inherently, as human beings, we want to help other people, right? That's a fulfilling process. So just think about, instead of closing, helping. I think that's extremely powerful.
And you have the diehards out there, the reps that have been out there, or the managers that have been out there for years. And when they hear this, it doesn't compute. It can't soak into their brains. But the concept that if you go into an appointment without actually thinking about selling it, where your only objective is to help that person, however that is, the natural flow of that conversation usually ends up in a sale, rather than saying, okay, I gotta do my introductory, I gotta do my survey, I gotta talk about this, I gotta follow the sales process. That's going to end in a sale 25% of the time, where if you actually lead with helping, you could be closing, but that's the term. You could be helping and selling 40, 50, 60% of the time.
That's crazy. Crazy the difference in percentages related to really thinking about the sale and then just changing the mindset and thinking about helping your potential customer.
Yeah. And there are even, when I train salespeople you don't have to make the sale every time. Like you may meet a customer who may not need your product or may not be a fit for your product. But if you help them with something or you point them in the right direction, that will always come back to you. I tell this story back in my window days that I went to this house, a couple of old ladies, both sisters, lived in this house for years. They had me out for whatever it was, and the window didn't need fixing. They didn't need it. I could have been an ass and sold them a window because they wouldn't have known any better. But I'm like, no, you don't need a window. They were blown away. Like, oh my God, you're not selling us anything. Like, nope, you don't need a window. I fixed whatever the problem was. But then as I'm walking out, their storm door was kind of off the hinge. I'm like, how long has this door been like this? They go, oh, it's been like that for years. It drives us crazy. So I went in my truck. I got a couple of screwdrivers, and 20 minutes later, I fixed their storm door that literally had been broken for years. They were almost crying. They were so happy. 3 months later, I got a call from one of her sons, one of the lady's sons, and he had me over and he bought an entire house worth of windows simply because I fixed her storm door. So don't underestimate the power of helping, even if it's the smallest thing in your mind, because it will always come back to you.
I truly believe in that kind of power of the universe and giving and you'll receive, but you've got to come from that mindset of I'm going to give, I'm going to help, I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to be out there serving and just being a positive impact in the world. And it's true to your point. It's going to definitely come back to you. So I know a lot of people have anxiety related to when they introduce price into any types of conversation. So I know you do some great talk about it in the book. There's some great nuggets in there. Share a little bit about how they can approach price better when they're trying to help someone.
Well, there's a lot of things in play here with pricing. The problem, one of the bigger issues that most sales reps have with pricing is, one, they're afraid to present the price because, one, they don't believe in it, or they're just not sure. They're just not sure in how they present it. So there's a couple of things you need to do. First of all, you need to price condition is a pretty common sales term, but price conditioning can be done in a way where the brain accepts it easier than you do it in a sales way. Because if you say, like, I'm selling a washing machine, and you work for GE, and you say, well, the Hamilton wash machine, they sell those for $900, and the other wash machines are $1,000. So yes, you're price conditioning, but you're also sounding like you're talking about the competitor. Mm-hmm. Where there's a way to anchor pricing without talking about anything but a price. So what I used to do, I go back to my window days, is I would walk in and have a general conversation. Then I would say, by the way, do you think a window like that would be over $3,000 or less than $3,000? And they would say, oh, well, I hope it's less than $3,000. And I'm like, yeah, it probably will be. And then I would just go on with the conversation. But the $3,000 is now anchored in their brain subconsciously. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with windows. It has nothing to do with anything. It's just the number of 3,000. And what that's doing is, psychologically, when they hear the number of the window, which is usually 1,600, they're not comparing it to the 3,000, but it just sounds better because you're getting them ready for the actual price of the product psychologically. Mm-hmm. So if you can price condition and anchor pricing that way, by mentioning another price to kind of get them prepared, because you don't want to just go through your presentation and then hit them over the head with the price, because they're not going to buy. If they're not expecting that price, they're not going to buy. And then the other thing is, everyone always has what I call price anxiety. It's purchase anxiety. You're buying, you go on the line at Best Buy with a printer for $100, you have anxiety. You're at the supermarket with a basket full of groceries. You have anxiety. And what do? You reach in, you take out a bag of chips and a pack of gum, and you feel better. Why do you feel better? Because you did something about the anxiety. You acknowledged it. So from a sales perspective, do the same thing. If you get to the point, you see your customers in front of you feeling anxious, acknowledge it. Say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm going to show you the price now, but I know you're probably feeling some anxiety, right? And just be very casual about it. And they're probably going to say, yeah, I'm a little nervous. You always say, you know what? That's normal to feel nervous. It's totally normal. Everybody gets anxiety. But you know what? Don't let the anxiety make the decision for you. Don't forget everything we just spoke about and all the answers to your questions that are going to solve your problems. Keep that in mind. The anxiety is going to be there. But once you know that if this is the product that you want that's going to solve your problem, make your decision for you, not the anxiety. And it'll make them take a deep breath, and then you can go from there.
Yeah, it probably just dissipates that anxiety on both sides of the fence, right? From who's the salesperson who's actually going to present the pricing, and the potential customer that you're helping as well. So I love both of those both of those strategies. Now, it was interesting in the book, you talked about pricing and how there is a way, and it was the movie theater example related to popcorn. Explain that one a little bit, because I thought it was just terribly, it was so interesting to really uncover and read it again as I went through your book for the second time.
So for me, pricing is one of my favorite things, because pricing, most companies, I would say 95%, maybe more companies, get pricing wrong because they price based on algorithms or computer generated numbers, or, smaller companies. Well, let's see, it costs us $10, so we're going to charge $21.95. It's just arbitrary. Nobody puts any thought into pricing except for the retail industry. The retail industry, it's all about pricing. And if you actually paid attention to it, you can see what the retail industry is doing to consumers, because pricing is psychological. And one of the ways to make pricing advantageous for you as the seller to the consumer is to put your pricing in three choices. So let's say you're a coach and you have a coaching program. Most coaches say, this is what I charge per hour, or this is what I charge for this monthly coaching program. And that's the only option they have. If you actually came up with three different coaching programs, the human brain loves choices and loves choices in threes. They're going to feel more comfortable from you. So their mind, their process goes from, am I going to buy Jeff's coaching program, to which of Jeff's coaching program am I going to buy? It goes from a purchasing mindset to a, I'm going to think about it mindset. Right. So here's the example for the movie theater. When you put something in three, You don't want to have it as small, medium, large, and have everything broken down. So for example, the movie theater is the guy at the movie theater had a small popcorn for $3 and a large popcorn for $7. And 90% of his popcorn sales was small because no one wanted to buy the $7 for the large. So they bought a bunch of smalls. And he was wondering, how am I going to get more large popcorns? Number one, it's a better profit margin for me, but in actuality, it's a better deal for the customer because they get a lot more popcorn for the cost. So he said, I'm going to add a medium. So you automatically would think, well, let's make the medium $5. So you have 3, 5, and 7. Mm-hmm. Making it $5 does absolutely nothing to get the customer to buy any one. He made the medium $6. Now think about that in your brain. $3, $6, $7. Guess what popcorn you're buying now? You're buying the large. You're buying the large for $7 because, wow, that large is only $1 more than the medium. That is a deal, honey. Let's buy that. And 95% of his popcorn sales went to the large. Nobody bought a medium ever. And then if the 4% that bought the smalls was for their kids. Right. So if you position yourself, put your pricing in 3, make that medium choice close to the large choice, chances are they're going to choose that large choice, which you want that to be the best choice for them anyway. Mm-hmm. But you also want them to feel like that's not only their best choice, but it's the best deal. And they're going to get the most for their money.
I love that. And I love that example of the movie theater and the popcorn. And it's so eye-opening, right? That they had a small, had a large, 90% were small, putting a medium in there at $6, seeing the value in the large, totally flipped it the opposite way. It's so powerful, the psychology that goes into the mind and what their buying patterns are and what their choices are.
And again, a lot of companies, if you see choices of 3, they'll still miss it because they only take it halfway. You'll see a lot online where, you'll see the package of, the bronze package, the silver package, and the gold package. Their mindset is we want everyone to buy the silver. So they kind of price it in the middle. And psychologically, you're like, well, okay, I'm going to buy the silver because I really can't afford the large, but I don't want to buy the small because I don't want to be cheap. But think about what that's doing to your customer. The customer's feeling like he's the silver. He's mediocre. I'm just going to buy the silver. They want to really buy the gold. They want to buy the really good package. So make the package, the gold package, make them feel really good about buying it. If you have a $99 medium and $139 gold, and the bronze is whatever it is, $29.99, for only $40, I'm going to get the gold. I'm going to buy wow, I bought the gold. I got the gold package. You're telling your friends you bought the gold package.
Right.
Most companies miss that, and they make the medium right in the middle. Most consumers buy the medium, and then they expect a medium experience.
Yeah, I just think that's so powerful when you think about pricing and the entrepreneurs, business owners, coaches that are listening to the podcast. Definitely take that in, what Allan just said. I mean, that was gold right there. So Allan, where can people follow you, find you?
So my website's pretty simple. It's allanger.com. It's AL and then Langer, LANGER.com. Or you can type in Allan Langer on LinkedIn. I'll come up. But off of my website, you can get my book. You can go to my podcast. You can find everything there. The podcast is called Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. It's a fun, light podcast. We share a cocktail, and actually Jeff's going to be on it coming up. He's scheduled to talk. So it's just a fun, but it also very informative, and it's a good time. It's not a dry marketing or sales podcast. It's a lot of fun. So
awesome. And I know you were going to give, for the first 2 listeners that email you, a mention the podcast, get an autographed copy of the book, correct?
Yeah. So the first 2 people who email me and mention Jeff's podcast, email at Allan, ALLAN, at allanger.com. I will send you an autographed copy of my book for the first 2 people that send me that email.
Awesome. Allan, I truly loved it. Truly appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, no problem, Jeff. Thanks for having me anytime. And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. You now have the knowledge, but without action, knowledge is useless. Choose to act. Choose to step into your greatness and unlock that hero inside of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review so more entrepreneurs can hear this message. If you absolutely love this podcast, which I hope you do, then share it up with someone you know who might see benefit from it. Become that beacon of change, and together we can impact the world.